So my inspiration for this art project is this beautiful teal paint. This is called Agean teal. It's a Benjamin Moore paint that I bought for a house project I was working on, and I'm just in love with the color. So I'm going to use some of my leftover paint in my paint pouring and see what I get. So stay tuned for this. Hopefully it works out for me. All right, here I am trying to take some of my beach colors and create a paint pour. So I've spread white on half of this piece. This is just an 8 by 10 canvas that I'm working on. So I'll spread that around there to give a base. This whole paint pouring thing, I feel like I'm very much in an experimental phase still with my paint pouring. And I would encourage you to just give it a go. When you want to try something new, just go for it. That's what I've been doing with some mixed results, but that's what happens when you do something new. It doesn't always work out. You watch these people on YouTube who've been doing paint pouring for a long time, and it's amazing what they're able to do. So I've seen some of these videos where they do what's called a split. So I've got my beautiful blue teal on the top part of this canvas, and just white, titanium white on the bottom part. And then I'm just going to experiment here. Try to create some flow through this. So I'll just hit that with the heat a bit to take any bubbles out that might be in it. But you don't like those bubbles popping up when you least expect them. And I'm going to do some paint through the middle, just pouring. I want to do quite a bit of blue there, because that one's going to be a bit of a base for me. And then I've got a bunch of these other beachy colors, which to me are quite beachy. And I'm going to alternate a bit between light and dark. So I've got a tiny bit of green here, aqua green, and some turquoise. I know this looks messy, that's kind of the point. And then I've got some phthalo green. See how this goes. And some cerulean blue, which is like a pale blue. Gives me all sorts of different shades. Then I want to top it off with a bit of gold right through the middle. I love the way the gold can mix with those beach colors. And then I have some white here that has some glitter in it, because I love a little bit of glitter. Now, just let that settle for a second. Maybe hit it with a bit of heat again. And then I'm going to take my swiper here. Actually, I think I'll use this one because it's got different, it's got a big side and a small side. And I'm going to do a few swipes just to kind of create some flow on either side. So some going into the teal side, some going into the white side. These flowy lines really put me in mind of the beach. So we'll see how this works out. So I'm still learning here, and I'm not sure if this is, I'm feeling like this is a bit too much paint on a canvas this size, because this is relatively small. I do like the contrast between some of the lighter and the darker colors, and I like having the teal on top and the white on the bottom. And that's really quite interesting. So I'm just going to tilt it a bit because I think with having a bit too much paint, having a bit of it run off the edges may not be a bad thing. Let's see if this... One thing I have learned from tilting is that you have to be careful if you have an area that is working out really cool. You don't want to let it run right off the edge of your canvas. This is just one of those flat board canvases. It's a small one because I think if this works out really well, I'd like to make a really big one, but I'll see how it works first. Through the middle, so that you get a bit of a continuous line. So I might add a bit of dark blue as well, if I can get it flowing a really thin line. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's what was missing. Not enough dark there. So, was I just not complaining a few minutes ago that I had too much paint? And what did I do? I added some more paint. Ooh, but it's interesting. One thing I quite like about this process is the experimenting. Oh, I like what's happening here. I kind of have some purple coming through. We'll see what I end up with here. I do like this line through the diagonal, so I kind of want everything coming out from that line. So, all in the name of experimenting. Maybe I just need to see what happens after it sits for a while. I do have more white up here and more of the darker teal down here, so I quite like that, and then everything else is just kind of flowing into it. Some really interesting patterns. So I think I'll just let that sit and see what happens. So I'm quite pleased with how this turned out. There's so much going on here. When you zoom in close, you can see how the colors have really flowed together nicely and created quite an interesting pattern. So I like this so much, I'm going to give it another try and see if it comes out different. So here I am, inspired by my beautiful teal paint, and I've put teal on half of this tile. I'm just going to spread it out a little bit, and white on the other half. Now I'm going to go in the middle here. I'm going to put a bunch of my paints. I'm going to start with my blue. This is just a light blue. I want to do a really thin line right through the middle. And I've got some dark green. So a couple of shades of green and a couple of shades of blue. This is a turquoise. And then I've got this other green here. It's like an aqua green. Just love it. Love, these are the colors that put me in mind of the beach. And I do like to have a bit of gold shimmer, because the gold shimmer just gives you that little bit of beachy feel. There we go. Now, it's the dark blue that really gets me. So I really, for this particular piece, I'm wanting to have a real feeling through the diagonal of dark blue. So I'm going to do some dark blue right down the middle of the diagonal. It's not the middle of the piece. Now I'm going to want these colors to spread from the middle out. So I'm just going to do a little bit of swiping here. See what happens. I don't want to lose that line down the middle. So I'll try and stick to that and see what I get. I think I'm going to try and pull some of the gold this way. Oh, this is really interesting. And it's just reminding me so much of the colors that I see when I'm at the beach. But I don't want any of the white to get over here, and I don't want any of the teal to get over here, so that I have that split of what's going on the two sides here. This is very cool. Now I think I'll do some... There's quite a bit of paint here. But what's interesting here is that as I go along here, I'm uncovering some of the paint that's underneath, because I've got all these layers happening. This is so cool. So my second try with this approach came out quite different than my first try, but there are still some similarities. It's just so fascinating to me that you can do a similar approach and get fairly different results. I just love this piece. You can see how some of the blues have flowed together really nicely there. So when I look at these two pieces side by side, I see similarities and differences. And it really drives home the fact that if you approach your art as a learner, it can really pay off, because I really love both pieces. So I was looking at this painting and I was looking at my white pebbles and I thought, oh, I think they would go good together. So I'm going to take some of my white pebbles and put them right along kind of the middle part of this painting, just to enhance this look of bubbles bubbling up. To me, it's kind of like you have the white crashing against the blues, and it's creating all sorts of bubbles right in the middle. So just to emphasize that, I think a few little white pebbles along the center there would just add a tiny touch. So when I look at this painting, what I see is a bit of a cliff here with some blue water or blue-green water over in the side there, and this really wild, swirly sky, probably because it's a very windy day. So I thought, to emphasize that being a cliff, I'm going to use my white sea pottery and put 3 little cottages sitting on the cliff, enjoying the crazy windy day. Yeah, I think that just adds a little bit more interest to this painting. So I feel like I've learned an awful lot by doing these 2 paintings, and I'm so excited with my results. So I'm quite inspired to try a much bigger version of this painting. So join me for my next project, and I'll show you how I take what I've learned in this project and expand it to something even bigger. So I really hope you found this interesting and it encourages you to approach your art as a learner. And until next time, hope you make it out to the beach, and happy sea glass hunting.